Okay, this is about myopic parents, the woman on the right, and their children who won't wear a preventive lens, and Rupa. And Rupa has her kids in prevention when they have 20/20, which I feel is the only correct answer. So let's continue.
I started wearing glasses when I was 8 years old, and I'm now 55, so I've had to go through the whole gamut of it. But I really felt like, what if something happens and I lose my contacts or my glasses? So now when I fly, I have to wear a little fanny pack because I want to make sure that if the plane crashes and I survive, I have contacts and glasses with me at all times. What if there's a supply chain issue and they can't get me my contacts and I've lost my glasses? I literally joke that I will not be on your zombie apocalypse team because I will be of no good use to you. Leave me by the side of the road.
You're done.
Yeah, so it's terrible.
I think the thing is, for those of us that don't wear glasses or aren't nearsighted, we don't really understand. My husband's also -6.5, and I just didn't get, like, you can't see the
You
shampoo
can't see.
bottles in the.
No.
You don't know what's like shampoo and conditioner. I mean, I don't.
You would look like a very kind of like a light peachy fuzz,
Okay.
and then a burgundy fuzz and white
And then
fuzz,
white fuzz.
because of those three colors. That's all I would see. So it really is a strange, strange feeling. I mean, I can get around my room because I know where it is. But
Yeah.
if you ask me to then go downstairs, go outside, and get into the car, I could get there, but then I would not. There's literally no way you would be able to do anything else.
Quickest way to shrink your
Oops,
prostate.
you got a commercial.
Best way to fix prostate problems?
The parents have
Saw
got to
Palmetto?
get their kids'
Nope.
nose off the
What about
page.
Lomax?
Period.
Nope.
Absolutely.
Antibiotics?
100%.
Nope. Here's what actually works.
Now, so did your eye doctors tell you it's not just the glasses? Like, we're concerned about your eye health. Did they talk to you about, hey, you're -8, so
Right.
you're at a really increased risk of retinal detachments? That must have been a scary conversation.
Yes. I mean, yes and no. I come from a family of high myopes.
Okay,
I've
so
seen
you
a
know
bunch of my
this.
cousins who've known it, and if I'm being really honest as a physician, I wasn't always as good about going to the eye doctor, and I would order my own contacts. But finally, because this is what everyone should be doing, I went and saw a retinal specialist who
Okay,
does a
yes.
very thorough retinal exam, which, by the way, is to me worse than a pap smear. But now there's machines.
I disagree, but
Now there are machines.
Yes.
He was doing
But
the
then when they
old-fashioned way.
press on your eyeball when
When
they're
they press
doing
on your
it,
eyeball,
it's
it's
hard.
hard. But I recognize that it's really valuable. So yes, they did make that clear. And actually, that was outside of, again, the anxiety and security and just the cost of wearing contacts and glasses, which
Yeah.
is a lot, as you know. It was that aspect. I kept saying to my children when I
Yes.
would fight with them at the beginning
Yes.
that I'm saving you from a lifetime of not being able to see and also potential risks.
Okay, and that's key. And that's what I try to tell parents who it's not just needing the glasses or the contact lenses or being not useful during a zombie apocalypse. It
Right.
is the fact that their vision is literally at risk. But
Yes.
when did you first notice the kid's nearsightedness? You must have been pretty attuned to it.
Yes. Well, my oldest had been born with some issues because he had actually suffered a traumatic brain injury in utero, and so he was signed up to see an ophthalmologist for
Okay.
his whole life.
Yeah.
And so up until he was about somewhere between 10 and 12, we're not exactly sure of the dates because I'm a mother and a doctor and
Yes,
I forgot.
yeah.
He was wearing glasses, and we recognized that neurologically his vision was never going to be perfect. And I said, "Oh, he's gotten my vision; it's fine." And the second one was already starting to show signs of it as well, just by, and I don't understand eyes, despite being an OBGYN, but measuring,
Yep,
they were able
yep,
to
that's
detect.
what we do. Yeah.
But our eye doctor, who's wonderful, Dr. Brian Campolatero in New York,
He's great.
he's so good. He immediately said, "Listen, we have this technology that apparently had been used in Asia
Yes.
for decades.
Yep.
Who knew? It was off-label in America at
Yes.
the time. He sent me to a specialist in Manhattan, an optometrist, not an ophthalmologist,
Yep.
who does all the measurements. And that's when we started it back when it was ortho K, meaning only the hard lenses. We talked at the time about the choices of using hard lenses versus atropine, and
Mhm.
I don't understand all the differences, but it seemed like the best results were going to be from ortho K.
Okay, and tell people, like, when was this? Because this
was somewhere between 7 to 9 years ago. This was a while ago,
This
and we would have to go from Connecticut into Manhattan. When I say we, it was me once, and it was my husband all the other times because I was working, and we would fight with my then, again, if it was 7 to 9 years ago, he was 12 to 14 years old.
Okay.
We would fight because if anyone's ever worn hard lenses, and these were not those small hard lenses that just cover your pupil,
Right.
right? It's a hard lens
Yes.
that looks like a soft lens
Yes.
that covers your entire iris.
Yes.
That, correct me if I'm wrong, changes the shape
It
of
does.
the cornea.
So you sleep in those contact lenses, which it's not my favorite treatment now because we have the soft contact lenses, but it
burgundy fuzz and white
then white
fuzz
fuzz.
because of those three colors. That's all I would see. So it really is a strange, strange feeling. I mean, I can get around my room because I know where it is. But
Yeah.
if you ask me to then go down
notice the kid's nearsightedness. So you must have been pretty attuned to it.
Yes. Well, my oldest had been born with some issues because he had actually suffered a traumatic brain injury in utero, and so he was signed up to see an ophthalmologist for his whole life. And so up until he was about somewhere between 10 and 12, we're not exactly sure of the dates because I'm a mother.
Okay. What they're talking about, what I talk about, is if you check your vision, Snellen, and you're 20/40, 20/60, then you can reverse it. But you would be using the plus lens the way that I'm using it. There is no other way. And what this woman on the right does is wait until the child is actually nearsighted, and then he gets contact lenses. And then the kid starts fighting the contact lenses, which I certainly would do. Whereas if they worked with a kid like Rupert does to keep the kid's nose off the page, the kid would maintain 20/20/20. And Rupert gets the idea, and the woman on the right doesn't get it. So if they could install the discipline to keep the kid's nose off the page, the refractive state would remain positive, and the child would not enter myopia. Now, this is what Rupa does, and she says endlessly to keep the nose off the page. She also has the capability of accurate measurements using a lens star, and I use a Snellen and test lenses. And I've been wearing a plus now for 15 years because I still love to read, and my reading is between 20 inches and 10 inches. And I can read through a +2 at both distances. But if I'm doing long-term close work, it's +4. So that's what prevention is going to take. And it's going to take a degree of intelligence and motivation that most people simply don't have. Be honest about it. It's meaning wearing a plus when your refractive state is positive and you have 20/20. If that's not prevention, I don't know what is. Rupa is a leader in the sense that she knows it and disciplines her kids for prevention when they have 20/20. And that most certainly is not medicine. If you're treating your kids with a disease condition and the kid had 20/20, and that's the paradox of scientific prevention. You've got to know enough to start and do it before you get down to 20/60. And everybody wants natural. Well, natural is prevention. Natural is prevention with a plus lens when you're 20/50. Natural is using a plus lens when reading as I do it. And it's a stronger plus when reading at 10 inches. And that's 15 years of plus wearing. My refractive state is about +0.5 to +1. And all my measurements are profoundly objective since I know what I'm doing and I know I must make them myself. I could work with someone medical, I suppose, but it's absolutely not necessary since I know how to do it. Now, I acknowledge here that my habit as a child took my vision down, 100%. I didn't know what I was doing. My parents didn't know the consequences of letting a child do something like that. There's no one publishes anything like that. Scientific truth. And so nobody gets it. The discipline of using a plus lens is something for an engineer who designs control systems and understands the concept of the meta-eye as I describe it. That young man, I would expect, would understand it when he's 20/40, personally, and making his measurements. Then I would expect him to do what I'm doing, categorically, or maybe not when he's 20/40. But he would know, since the eye goes down 1 diopter in 4 years, there are consequences to ignorance, to not taking prevention seriously when you're 20/40. I don't control that. I explain this to my relatives, but the actual actions of prevention must come from the person himself. That probably could only happen with engineers because they know what they're doing. Everyone else does not care, does not give a damn, doesn't matter. And at 2040, they want the minus. They don't want a lecture on scientific prevention. And believe me, they will not get that lecture. The only real lecture is Rupa Wong disciplining her kids to keep their nose off the page outside in tennis. And she does all the measurements, as I now do all the measurement myself for exactly the same reason. Nobody really cares about your vision except yourself. And if you don't care, no one cares. Even that woman who's highly nearsighted watched her kids put the nose on the page and watch her kids' vision go down. And that's across the medical field. No one medical seems to understand. Keep your kid's nose off the page. And so we all go to hell together with that nose on the page habit. And nobody's has the intelligence and motivation just to spell it out in a choice. So add your own commentary. I'm not angry. I'm angry at my habits as a child, certainly. But that's where the problem comes from. Add your own commentary. Thank you.